The fluorescent lights of Franklin West High's locker room flickered overhead as Maya Chen stood frozen in place, her hand clutching a fistful of her own hair, while Madison Brooks smirked triumphantly just inches from her face. The other girls formed a semicircle around them, their laughter echoing off the cold tile walls like a chorus of cruelty. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not today, not ever. But here she was, the quietest member of the cheerleading squad, finally face to face with the moment that would change everything. Maya had always been different from the other cheerleaders at Franklin West. While they congregated in tight-knit groups, gossiping about weekend parties and social media drama, she preferred to sit alone in the corner of the locker room, stretching quietly and reviewing the routines in her head. She wasn't antisocial by choice, but rather by necessity. Growing up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep their small apartment, Maya understood that her scholarship to stay at this prestigious high school depended entirely on her academic performance and her position on the competitive cheer squad. She couldn't afford distractions, drama, or enemies, yet somehow she had managed to acquire all 3. Madison Brooks had been the squad captain since their sophomore year, and she ruled the team with an iron fist wrapped in designer athletic wear. Beautiful, wealthy, and ruthlessly ambitious, Madison had everything Maya didn't: confidence that bordered on arrogance, a social circle that worshipped her every move, and parents who donated enough money to the school that teachers looked the other way when she bent the rules. From the moment Maya had made the varsity squad as a freshman, Madison had marked her as a threat. It wasn't personal at first, just a calculated assessment from someone who couldn't stand the idea of being outshined. But over the past 3 years, as Maya's skills had grown sharper and her tumbling passes had become the highlight of every routine, Madison's subtle dismissiveness had evolved into outright hostility. The incident that led to this moment had started 2 weeks earlier during practice. Coach Reynolds had pulled Maya aside after a particularly impressive run-through of their regional competition routine and suggested that she should perform the center position during the pyramid sequence, traditionally reserved for the team captain. It was just a suggestion, nothing official, but Madison had overheard. The fury in her eyes had been unmistakable, though she'd masked it quickly with her pageant-perfect smile. From that day forward, the whisper campaign had begun. Madison had spent every practice session since then planting seeds of doubt about Maya among the other girls. She was too serious, too competitive, too focused on herself rather than the team. She didn't come to their parties because she thought she was better than them. She didn't engage in their conversations because she was secretly judging them all. Most of the squad had fallen in line with Madison's narrative because opposing her meant social suicide. Only 2 girls had remained neutral: Jasmine, a junior who was too focused on her own college recruitment to care about squad politics, and Emma, a sweet sophomore who was too new to understand the dangerous game being played. But neutral wasn't the same as supportive, and when Maya needed allies, she found herself utterly alone. The confrontation had been building for days. Madison had started with small acts of sabotage, hiding Maya's gym bag accidentally, stepping on her fingers during stunts, spreading rumors that she was trying to get Madison kicked off the team. Maya had endured it all in silence, believing that keeping her head down and focusing on her performance would be enough. She was wrong. Bullies don't stop when you ignore them. They escalate until they get the reaction they're seeking. Today, Madison had decided to push things to the breaking point. Practice had ended, and most of the team was in the locker room changing and chatting. Maya had been standing at her locker, carefully folding her practice uniform when she felt someone bump into her hard from behind. She stumbled forward, catching herself against the metal door. When she turned around, Madison was standing there with her crew flanking her: Brittany, her perpetually grinning second-in-command, Ashley, who recorded everything on her phone for social media, and Chloe, who looked slightly uncomfortable but too afraid to object. "Oops," Madison had said with mock innocence. "Didn't see you there, Maya. You're so quiet you just blend into the background, you know." The other girls had laughed on cue. Maya had felt her face flush but said nothing, turning back to her locker. That's when Madison had noticed the acceptance letter sticking out of Maya's backpack. the one from Stanford University, offering her a full academic scholarship. Madison had snatched it BF. Or Maya could react, reading it aloud to the locker room with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Oh my God, everyone! Maya got into Stanford. How amazing is that?" Her voice dripped with sarcasm. "So I guess when you have no friends and no life, you have plenty of time to study, right?" More laughter. Maya had reached for the letter, but Madison had held it above her head, playing keep away like they were children on a playground. "What's the matter, Maya? Can't jump high enough? I thought you were supposed to be this amazing athlete." Something inside Maya had snapped in that moment, not into anger but into clarity. She suddenly saw the entire situation for what it was, a desperate attempt by someone deeply insecure to maintain control by tearing others down. Madison wasn't strong, she was terrified. Terrified that without her position as captain, without her ability to manipulate and dominate, she would be exposed as ordinary. Maya realized that every cruel word, every deliberate slight, every moment of manufactured drama had nothing to do with her at all. It was all about Madison's fear of irrelevance. When Madison had grabbed a handful of Maya's hair, yanking hard enough to make her eyes water, Maya hadn't cried out or fought back. Instead, she had done something completely unexpected. She had smiled. Not a nervous smile or a fake smile, but a genuine smile of someone who had just discovered their own power. That smile had unsettled Madison more than any scream or tear could have. Her grip had loosened slightly, confusion flickering across her perfect features. "Do you know who the boss is?" Madison had demanded, trying to reassert her dominance, her voice slightly less steady than before. The question hung in the air, and in that suspended moment, Maya made a choice. She could respond with fear, with submission, with the silence that had defined her for so long, or she could respond with truth. "You want to know who the boss is?" Maya said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, but somehow commanding the attention of every person in that locker room. But the boss isn't the person who screams the loudest or tears others down to feel tall. The boss isn't someone who needs a crowd to feel powerful or who measures their worth by how much fear they can inspire. She gently removed Madison's hand from her hair, maintaining eye contact the entire time. Then the real boss is the person who shows up every single day and does the work, even when nobody's watching. The person who lifts others up instead of pushing them down. The person who doesn't need to prove anything because they already know their value. The locker room had gone completely silent. Even Ashley had lowered her phone, forgetting to record. Madison stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, unable to formulate a response. Maya continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I spent 3 years trying to make myself smaller so I wouldn't threaten you, Madison." I stopped raising my hand in class when I knew the answer, because I didn't want you to call me a know-it-all. I ate lunch in the library so you wouldn't accuse me of trying to infiltrate your friend group. I apologized for things I didn't do just to keep the peace. And you want to know what I realized just now? I was giving you power you never actually had. I was letting you be the boss of my self-worth, and that ends today. Brittany shifted uncomfortably, and Chloe looked down at her feet. The cracks in Madison's armor were starting to show. Her eyes glistened with something that might have been tears or might have been rage. It was hard to tell. "I think you're so special," Madison finally said, but her voice lacked its usual venom. "Don't think getting into some fancy college makes you better than everyone else?" "Oh no," Maya replied calmly. "I don't think I'm better than anyone. But I also don't think I'm less than anyone, including you. That's the difference between us, Madison. You need to make me feel small to feel big. I just need to be myself." She picked up her Stanford acceptance letter from where Madison had dropped it, carefully folding it and placing it back in her bag. "Oh, and you can take a lot of things from me. You can make these next few months miserable. You can turn the whole squad against me if you want, but you can't take away my achievements, my dignity, or my future. Those belong to me." The transformation in the room was palpable. Emma, the sophomore who had always been too scared to speak up, stepped forward hesitantly. "Well, Madison, this isn't cool," she said softly. "Maya never did anything to you. She's actually really good at helping people with the routines when they're struggling. She helped me with my back handspring for weeks until I got it right. Jasmine nodded in agreement. She's not the enemy you've made her out to be. Maybe if you got to know her instead of competing with her, you'd see that. Madison looked around at her crew, expecting them to back her up, but for the first time, they weren't jumping to her defense. Brittany was examining her nails, refusing to meet her friend's eyes. Ashley had put her phone away entirely. Chloe actually took a small step toward Maya, a gesture of solidarity that spoke volumes. The power dynamic that had defined the squad for years was shifting in real time, and everyone could feel it. "Whatever," Madison said, trying to salvage some dignity. "She's not worth our time anyway." She grabbed her designer bag and headed toward the exit, but her followers didn't immediately trail after her like they usually did. For the first time, Madison Brooks was walking away alone, and the realization clearly devastated her. Just before she reached the door, she turned back, and Maya saw something unexpected in her expression. Not hatred, but hurt. It was the look of someone who had just realized that the empire they'd built on fear and manipulation was crumbling, and they had no idea how to build anything real in its place. After Madison left, the atmosphere in the locker room transformed entirely. Girls who had pretended Maya didn't exist for years suddenly wanted to talk to her, to apologize, to explain that they'd never really agreed with how Madison treated her. Maya accepted their words with grace, but also with a healthy dose of skepticism. She understood that people often followed the path of least resistance, and standing up to Madison had required more courage than most were willing to muster. She didn't hold it against them, but she also didn't forget who had stood beside her when it mattered, and who had waited until it was safe. The following weeks brought significant changes to the Franklin West cheer squad. Coach Reynolds officially announced that Maya would be performing the center position in the regional competition pyramid, a decision that was met with applause from most of the team. Madison showed up to practice. CE, but was notably subdued. Her usual commanding presence dimmed. She still performed well, her technical skills sharp as ever, but the joy seemed to have left her movements. There were rumors that her parents were fighting, that her boyfriend had broken up with her, that she was seeing a therapist. Maya didn't participate in the gossip, but she did observe that Madison seemed smaller somehow, less certain of her place in the world. One afternoon after practice, Maya was surprised to find Madison waiting by her locker. She braced herself for another confrontation, but instead Madison spoke in a voice devoid of her usual bravado. "Can we talk?" she asked. Maya nodded cautiously, and they walked to an empty corner of the locker room. "I've been thinking about what you said," Madison began, struggling with the words, "and about how I need to make others feel small to feel big. You were right. I've been doing that since middle school, and I don't even know why anymore. Maybe I never knew why." Maya listened without interrupting as Madison continued. My mom was a professional dancer before she had me. She gave up her career, and I think she resents it. She's been pushing me to be perfect since I was 5 years old. Best grades, best activities, best everything. I thought if I could be the best cheerleader, have the most friends, control everything around me, then maybe I'd finally be enough for her. But it's never enough. And somewhere along the way, I started treating everyone else the way she treats me. Always looking for flaws, always maintaining control. Tears were streaming down Madison's face now, her carefully applied makeup running in dark streaks. "I'm not asking you to forgive me or be my friend. I just wanted you to know that what you said changed something in me. I'm going to try to be better. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try." Maya felt a complex mix of emotions. Part of her wanted to reject Madison's apology, to remind her of every cruel moment she'd endured. But another part of her, the part that had always believed in second chances and redemption, recognized the courage it took for Madison to be this vulnerable. "Thank you for telling me that," Maya said carefully. "I appreciate your honesty. But Madison, you can't just try to be better for your mom or for me or for anyone else. You have to do it for yourself. You have to believe that you're worthy of kindness and that you don't need to hurt people to prove your value. That's work you have to do on your own." Madison nodded, wiping her eyes. "I know. I'm starting therapy next week. My parents fought me on it, but I insisted. I can't keep living like this, always afraid that someone's going to see through the act and realize I'm just making it all up as I go." She paused, then added quietly, "For what it's worth, you deserved that center position years ago. You're the best athlete on this team, and everyone knows it. I was just too insecure to admit it." The regional competition arrived, and the Franklin West cheer squad performed flawlessly. Maya's center position in the pyramid was everything Coach Reynolds had hoped it would be, a perfect combination of technical precision and artistic expression. But what made the performance truly special wasn't any individual achievement. It was the genuine teamwork that had developed in the weeks following the locker room incident. The girls moved as one unit, supporting each other, trusting each other, celebrating each other. They took first place, and when they received their trophy, Maya made sure every single team member was in the photo, including Madison. In her valedictorian speech at graduation several months later, Maya never mentioned the locker room incident directly, but her message was clear. "When we all face moments in life where we have to choose who we're going to be," she told her classmates. "Are we going to be people who tear others down to build ourselves up, or are we going to be people who recognize that there's enough success and happiness for everyone? Are we going to lead through fear, or are we going to lead through inspiration?" The choice we make in those moments defines not just who we are, but who we're capable of becoming. From her seat in the audience, Madison Brooks stood and applauded with everyone else, her applause lasting longer than most. She had finished the year as co-captain alongside Maya, a shared leadership role that Coach Reynolds had suggested and both girls had accepted. Their relationship would never be what anyone would call friendship, but it had evolved into something better, mutual respect. Madison was heading to a small liberal arts college where she planned to study psychology, hoping to understand herself better and maybe help others who struggled with similar issues. Maya was off to Stanford, ready to continue proving that quiet strength can be more powerful than loud dominance. The story of what happened in that locker room spread throughout Franklin West High, taking on a legendary quality with each retelling. Some versions exaggerated the drama, others focused on the redemption arc. But the core truth remained constant. A quiet cheerleader had faced her bullies not with matching cruelty or physical retaliation, but with something far more powerful, the unshakable knowledge of her own worth. She had shown everyone watching that the real boss isn't determined by who can inflict the most pain, but by who can endure it while maintaining their integrity and humanity. Years later, Maya would return to Franklin West as a guest speaker, sharing her story with a new generation of students facing their own bullies and challenges. She would tell them that standing up for yourself doesn't always look like the dramatic confrontations portrayed in movies. Sometimes it looks like quiet consistency, like refusing to shrink yourself to make others comfortable, like maintaining your dignity when everyone around you is losing theirs. She would tell them that bullies are often people in pain who haven't learned how to process their emotions in healthy ways, and while that doesn't excuse their behavior, understanding it can help you respond with wisdom rather than wounded pride. Most importantly, she would tell them that your worth is not determined by others' opinions of you, by their acceptance or rejection, by their praise or criticism. Your worth is inherent, unchangeable, and yours alone to claim. The moment you truly understand that truth is the moment you become unstoppable. That's what it means to be the boss of your own life, not controlling others, but mastering yourself, your reactions, your choices, and your destiny. The quiet cheerleader had found her voice that day in the locker room, and in doing so, she had given voice to every student who had ever felt invisible, dismissed, or less than. Her reaction made them lose it not because it was aggressive or dramatic, but because it was authentic, powerful, and undeniable. True. And that truth continued to echo through the halls of Franklin West High long after she had graduated. A reminder that sometimes the quietest voices carry the most important messages. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to stand up for yourself? How did you handle it? Your story might inspire someone else who's going through something similar right now. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please show your support for Heartfelt Tales by hitting that like button, sharing this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring stories that celebrate courage, resilience, and the power of standing in your truth. Ring that notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your perspective or brighten your day. Thank you for being part of our community, where every tale is told with heart.